It's about time we're back, baby. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This week we are back. Formula One summer break is done and gone, and we are here to talk about the first race in the second half of the season as F1 heads to the dunes of Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. I know I have been praying for this moment for the last month or so because life without Formula One, my weekends have basically had zero meaning outside of, if you couldn't tell, the new office that we have set up here for both stream and content. So we're still working it out. Camera angle is going to shift and change, obviously, but this has been a long time coming and F1 is finally back. We are going to be doing our predictions today for the 2024 Dutch Grand Prix. We're going to be talking about our biggest positive surprise, our biggest disappointment. We're going to be talking about our qualifying top three, our race podium, and then we will round things out with our one crazy prediction. I hope you guys are excited. And before we jump in, if you haven't already, subscribe down below if you enjoy F1 or sim racing content. Leave a comment down below as we go predicting what you think is going to happen this weekend in the first weekend back after the summer break. And as always, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. But let's go ahead, let's jump on into this thing with our biggest positive surprise. Let's kick things off right with our biggest positive surprise, and this week I have gone for, I think, a very underrated pick because I have not seen very much talk about them because I think the team is impacting the discussion more than the individual. This week I have gone for Yuki Tsunoda as my biggest positive surprise. It feels like it's been very much far too long since we've seen a Yuki masterclass, and I think there's just something in the air this week about a Yuki just coming in and absolutely smashing it, because I'm a Yuki believer, and while I don't necessarily believe in VCARB, but the car, I do think that Yuki is a very, very good driver. I rate him very highly, and I think it's about time we see some respect put on his name, and I think Yuki is going to come out and have an absolutely fantastic weekend from start to finish, and I think he's going to score decent points for VCARB, which would be pretty good points considering VCARB isn't in that top 4 or 5 top teams, and so I think we're going to come out and see Yuki score good points and have a very solid weekend from start to finish. Before we jump into our biggest disappointment for the weekend, if you noticed in our biggest positive surprise, a black bar appear along the bottom with our community prediction. That's right, I like to give our little community here an opportunity to have their predictions featured on the video. If you're interested in having your predictions heard, you can head to the link in the description, join the Discord, and leading up to every single race weekend, we will make a call for your predictions in our F1 predictions channel, and you can drop them there. And if you do so before a certain point in the week leading up to the race weekend, it'll be featured here on this video like you saw in our biggest positive surprise. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into my pick for biggest disappointment. Now, this one I think needs a little bit of explaining because it is 100% a vibes pick for me. Very similar to my pick for Yuki Tsunoda. This one is 100% just a vibes pick, and it just feels like it's not this driver's year because they really just can't seem to to put that many races in a row where it goes very, very well. So my pick for biggest disappointment this weekend is going to be Charles Leclerc. Now, I know that just anything outside of finishing decently in the points is going to feel very disappointing, but my God, has Charles had a very tough year. Yes, he won his home race, which I think no matter what happens for the rest of the year, I do think Charles is going to walk away from this year pretty excited about the fact that he finally won his home race, which I'm still buzzing about every time I see a clip of it on social media. But I just think it's just a year outside of that. I mean, you saw it in the next 5 or 6 races where he just got nothing going, terrible luck on race starts, strategy, just unfortunate damage or issues that I think he was lapped in 4 of the next 6 races or something like that. And so I think this is a 100% a vibes pick, and it just feels like outside of Monaco, it's just not Charles' year, and I think we might see it continue this weekend in Zandvoort. Let's move things right along to our qualifying top 3. We'll start in P3, for I have gone with George Russell in P3. I think George has been performing very, very well in the last couple of rounds. Obviously, he ran a near perfect race in Belgium last time out before the summer break, but obviously with his car underweight issues was ultimately disqualified from the race win. I think we're going to see him come back probably hopefully pretty motivated to perform very, very well. And I do think Mercedes is kind of putting themselves in a position to perform very well. And I think we're going to see it start on Saturday for George, as he's going to finish P3 in my predictions for qualifying. Moving on to my pick for P2, I've gone for a Scuderia driver of Carlos Sainz. I think Carlos, there's something about these first races after a long break that he just really seems to perform very well. We saw at the beginning of the year where he was absolutely popping off, including a win in Australia, and I think we might see something similar here, where just kind of out of nowhere, when no one's really expecting it, we might see him put in a very banger performance in qualifying, and I think it's going to culminate on a front row start for our favorite Spaniard. And then rounding it out, my pick for pole position this week. He did not take pole position in Belgium, but he did qualify the fastest. That's right, I have gone for Max Verstappen to take pole position here in his home race. I don't know if I need to say much more outside of that. I know last year the weather played a big part in giving us an exciting race and all of that, but I think this could be one of those. And while I don't think Red Bull necessarily has the best car anymore, I do think Max is definitely one of, if not the best driver on the grid right now. And when you take that to his home race in a weekend that I'm sure he's going to want to reassert himself in not only the Drivers' Championship, but hopefully try and light a spark in Red Bull as a team, as they've definitely been under, I don't know, weird pressure or something over the summer break to kind of reestablish their dominance in the sport. And I think it's going to start on Saturday as Max puts it on pole position. And while I don't know if it's going to necessarily be as dominant as of a qualifying performance as we've seen from him, not only in recent form but also this year, I do think it will be enough to put it on the front row in the top spot in qualifying. Moving things right along, it's time for the Sunday predictions, the things we all come to a race weekend for. That's right, our race podium predictions, and we are going to start in P3 for me here. And this one I have gone for Lewis Hamilton. Now, I think we can all agree that Lewis definitely doesn't seem to have necessarily the raw qualifying pace in this Mercedes car that we might see out of like a George Russell, but we do see is extremely good race pace. And Lewis, having 2 wins out of the last few races, is definitely on a bit of a tear and a bit of a heater when it comes to the race pace when it comes down to it. So I think we're seeing a very motivated Lewis Hamilton right now, and I think he's going to want to continue that form coming out of the summer break. Obviously, he is our most recent race winner, and I think he's going to, at minimum, continue his podium streak. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be winning the race this weekend, but I do think we'll see him on the steps of the podium once again, and I have him slotted in at P3. Moving on to my pick for P2, and I think this is a driver we've seen a lot kind of kick himself for his qualifying performances, but usually is able to make up for it in terms of race pace and finishing where he probably should have. In the beginning, I've gone for Lando Norris in this slot. I think we're going to see a bit of an exciting race coming down the stretch of this one, unless we get something very early that doles out the rest of the race. I think we could see a bit of an exciting finish when it might come down to just some strategy calls and who's able to put together the pace that who can extract the most pace from their individual car. I think Lando is going to be teaming to try and get back up, towards the sharp end of the grid in terms of, scoring points and things like that, and trying to take some steps forward and solidifying his position in the Drivers' Championship. And while I don't know if he's really going to make a title charge, I do know that he's going to want to finish second at almost all costs. So I think it's going to start this weekend in Zandvoort. So Lando, I have you finishing P2. And then rounding it out, our race winner, I don't think any of us are going to be too surprised by this pick. I have gone for Max Verstappen is my winner for the 2024 Dutch Grand Prix. I don't know what else there really is to say. I think this is going to be one of those weekends where, while it may not be dominant, I do think Max is basically going to be leading the way the whole time, unless something crazy happens, unless this rumored Red Bull, cheated part that they had on their suspension and now they had to take off, and all of a sudden they're not the clear-cut fastest car on the grid. All alleged, absolutely no basis, but it does seem to line up pretty well with Red Bull sort of, step back from, such a dominant position. So I don't know, but I don't think it's going to necessarily matter too much this weekend, as I think Max is going to come in extra motivated, and I think we're going to see a Max Verstappen top step of the podium and the Dutch national anthem played on home soil once again. Let's round out these predictions with our one crazy prediction. In this one, I've gone for a bit of an abstract one. I do think this is going to come down to one of the last few laps, and it's going to come down to who can get it right and who gets it wrong, because I predict that there's going to be a safety car in the final 20 laps of this race that is going to reset the field and give us a very exciting finish to our first race back after the summer break. This could be a little bit of a copium for me. I think we could and are all fearing a very boring and lazy first race back, but I'm going to choose to go the other way. I think we're going to see a safety car. I think we're going to see a very exciting finish, and it's all going to come down to who gets it right and who gets it wrong to basically, hopefully, give us a exciting finish and potentially reshuffle the points and give us some exciting points finishers. I, for one, welcome it wholeheartedly. I hope you will join me along that way. And so there it is. My one crazy prediction is a safety car will give us all a moment to sit up, refocus ourselves, and lock and load for the final few laps of a race that I could produce a banger. Guys, there we have it. Our predictions for the 2024 Dutch Grand Prix. Zandvoort is one of my favorite tracks. It definitely has really grown on me, not only from watching it on television, but also playing it in both the F1 game and other sims. It's definitely grown on me a lot, and it's turned into one of my favorite tracks. I'm excited beyond belief to have F1 back. I think it was a long break, and I think that while the teams definitely deserve the break, don't get me wrong, I think I can speak for every single one of us that says we are so happy you're back. But guys, I hope you enjoy the weekend. We will be back after it's all said and done to talk about what we saw. I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, if you haven't already, subscribe down below. Leave a comment what your predictions are and what you think is going to happen this weekend. And if you enjoyed the video and you made it this far, leave me a like, as it really helps me out. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for me here in this one. I'll see you in the next one.